It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
What's up, River Valley? Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Monday. I'm back. Sorry, I didn't call on Friday. Matter of fact, I didn't say anything to these guys about the fact that I wasn't going to be able to call in on Friday because I got tied up almost literally in hot springs.
Whoa.
Yeah.
We didn't need to know all that.
I had an elbow down my back for about 30 minutes. I don't want to
Again, you know.
Massages, man. Massages.
Okay.
When they put the elbow in the middle of your back, it's supposed to feel good. It felt like torture. And I was too much of a dude to just say, all right, quit, stop, that hurts, do something different, do something that feels good and doesn't hurt like a needle in the middle of my back. So that's what I was doing Friday. I was hanging out with the wife. We call it a baby moon. It's the last time she had spring break, so from school. It's the last week before she goes back to school. Obviously, she's back today, and all of life is about to change in about 4 weeks, the little one getting here. So we had to do something. Yeah. We took that chance on Friday, and we went out and Weldon held it down. Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Monday. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter here in the Cogswell Motors studios. If you're a first-time listener to the Sports Blitz, we welcome you, and we'll let you know a little bit about what's going to happen today. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about: NCAA tournament basketball, hog basketball, and not men's hog basketball. That's going to be an interesting topic of discussion here in a little bit. Yeah, and then just Major League Baseball opening day today. Plenty of stuff, Weldon, for us to hit. It's going to be a little easier without you having to talk for an hour straight by yourself.
Yeah, but I'm sure the people in America enjoyed it, though. They like getting me for an hour. And I was saying this towards the end of the show. I was asking Maddie, but I was really talking to myself, pretending like Maddie was listening. Yeah. And I was like, hosting a show is kind of tough by yourself. Really, it's not so much the content; it's just that you got to argue with yourself, and you got to debate different things and bring a perspective of somebody who's out there but not actually here, which was something that was interesting to me. But we had a really good time, covered a variety of topics. Obviously, the NCAA tournament, we are now down to the Final Four. Some really good games. That Kentucky-Michigan game was a classic. Really, Kentucky and Louisville was a classic in the round before. Florida gets there. How about the SEC? 2 teams in the Final Four, the much-maligned SEC. Bo Ryan finally gets his Wisconsin Badgers there. We know they're in the mix every year, and so it's good to see Bo finally get there. And then UConn. And this is something that most people probably won't agree with, but to me, UConn over Michigan State felt like the biggest upset of the tournament, even more so to me than Mercer over Duke, because if you remember, I was telling you, watch out for Mercer. I'm not taking credit for the pick because I picked Duke to beat Mercer, but, all week I was kind of leery of Duke as a 3 seed against Mercer. I thought there was a chance some things happening, and they did, so that one didn't knock me off my feet. But you look at Michigan State, they're healthy now. They've got all this talent, Adrian Payne and Gary Harris and Brandon Dawson and Keith Appling and all these guys. They're finally healthy. They're just going to start dump trucking people. And for a while, it looked like that, too. You get a UConn team who didn't even win the American Conference. A lot of people thought they would lose in the first round to 10-seed St. Joe's, and here they are beating mighty Michigan State to get to the Final Four. Highly improbable, and to me, that felt like a huge upset.
It did feel like a big upset. And going back to the games that have taken place since we last were on the air, Arizona, Wisconsin, man, that was a good one. Little upset because I picked Arizona to go to the Final Four. Would have liked to have seen them win that game, but they weren't able to get that done. And then Kentucky, Michigan, like you said, that was a great game. Even the Kentucky Louisville game was a very, very good game, an instant classic. And like we talked about Wichita State, Kentucky's sort of in the same situation where if they are to win it all, the programs that they will have gone through,
right?
The teams that are playing hot, like
Three of the last State's Final
not great.
Four.
Yeah. Kansas State, not great, but they were a tough matchup in the first round. Then they get Wichita State, the 1 seed, knock them off. Then they get Louisville, who a lot of people had in the national championship game, and knocked them off. Then they get Michigan, who was hot as anybody, knocked them off, and now they've got Wisconsin. Man, that game right there, and I don't want to give away too much because our CrossFit Russellville poll question's coming up here in a minute. That game right there, to me, is the biggest game in the Final Four of the two. Obviously, the national championship game will be bigger, but then Connecticut, Florida, the road that both of those teams went on to get there. UConn, like you said, that's the biggest surprise in my opinion. Even though Connecticut's a 7 and Kentucky's an 8, UConn sort of looks like the Cinderella, quote unquote, of the tournament so far as the teams that made it. Everybody knew that Kentucky had the talent to get where they are, and what they've done is just put it together. They've looked very, very good. They've looked like a buzzsaw at times, but they've kept it close. They've won big games, made big shots. Aaron Harrison,
right?
He's the one who early in the year, I liked him. I didn't like Andrew Harrison at all. I just all the time saw him whining and making this stupid-looking pouty face, and Aaron Harrison was just kind of the silent assassin, and he has turned in. I saw somebody tweet the other day, there's two of us, Andrew Harrison. Aaron Harrison. It was a good performance from him in back-to-back nights back-to-back games hitting big shots. So we've got a lot of talk about the NCAA tournament today. So I'm hoping though, Weldon, that we can sort of correct where we've went wrong in our brackets. Yeah. I've only got one team left.
Yeah, I mean, so do I. And look, this is the beauty of the NCAA tournament, because it's not about who's the better team or who has a better resume. It's about how good are you each individual day. It's not a series. It's about one game. Look, I didn't pick Kentucky to go to the Final Four, and I don't feel bad about it whatsoever, because look, I didn't really trust Kentucky to beat Kansas State, to tell you the truth. I mean, why would I? I mean, yeah, they played well in the SEC tournament, but, I mean, really, would you trust Kentucky fully to beat Kansas State?
No.
I certainly didn't. But if you had told me that Kentucky would advance to get to Louisville, I would have picked Kentucky to beat Louisville. Now, you may say you don't believe me. That's fine. I don't care. But if I knew Kentucky had a chance to get to Louisville, I would have picked them. But how can you really trust Kentucky, as I said, to beat Kansas State and to beat Wichita State? I felt they would do that. I picked them to do that, but I certainly wasn't going to go on a limb, hang Kentucky all the way to the Final Four, only to see them get tripped up in the round of 64, the round of 32. And so that's what's great about the NCAA tournament. It's a one-game scenario. Kentucky could have easily lost. Fred VanVleet had a decent look to win the game from 3 to end it. And then we're not talking about any of this against Louisville or against Michigan. That's the beauty and the nature of the NCAA tournament.
And that's why it makes it so entertaining and so dramatic and so I don't know. I just love this time of year. I've said it more than once. The first 2 days of the NCAA tournament, best 2 days in sports, in my opinion. It just gets better as far as the quality of games, because you start watching the first game and you see 1-16 games, and you're like, okay, well, I know who's going to win this game.
Right.
So you watch, and it's cool because there's all these games going on at once. But then you turn back in later that week and you see a 2 facing a 3 or a 1 facing a 4 or whatever it is, and you're like, man, this is a huge game, and it just gets progressively better. So love the NCAA tournament. Today's CrossFit Russellville poll question deals with the NCAA tournament, also deals with Major League Baseball. Those of you that know me, no, I don't care at all about baseball, and Weldon was giving me all kinds of crap in the pre-show because he said I shouldn't be disingenuous and act like I care about baseball when I don't. But I know some of you care. You can give us a call at 968-NEWS with your thoughts today, 968-6397. But today's CrossFit Russellville poll question is a two-parter. Today's opening day for Major League Baseball. Who you got winning the World Series? And then also, if you could redo your bracket, your NCAA tournament bracket, if you're like me and you've only got one team left, or maybe you've got none. If you've got two, you are among an elite group. If you could redo your bracket, who do you have winning this weekend's games? And then who do you have winning the national championship on Monday? It's a redo Monday here on the Sports Blitz. So I've got a lot of good stuff that we can talk about today. But let's finish up this first segment here with some local sports. We've been telling you for a little while about the Brightest Stars Banquet in Weldon. I'm looking forward to a good night of honoring student athletes and coaches from around the River Valley. The nominations are in. I'm getting a couple of the other things worked out, and I'm trying to decide if I want to release the names of all the nominees, just so that those guys, even the people that don't win, will at least get some recognition for being nominated.
Right. Now, is this going to be a whole drama as far as nominees invited, but they don't know who's going to win until it's unveiled?
The finalists are invited. The nominees can come if they want, but they'll know that they're not a finalist. They're not going to win it beforehand. I will announce the finalists as soon as I can get the ballots back from the coaches. This week we're going to work on making a ballot. For those of you that aren't aware of what's going on. The Sports Blitz, in conjunction with the Help Network here in Pope County, Pope-Yale County area, and actually they work in Johnson County as well, are teaming to put together what we're calling the Brightest Stars Banquet. 10 schools from around the River Valley, going from Clarksville to Atkins and from Hector to Two Rivers and Danville. We're teaming with Help Network to honor student athletes from those 10 schools. Bunch of different awards. I think there are 22 total awards between players and coaches that we're giving out for Player of the Year. Every boys and every girls sport. I say that, and then I thought about it, and there's no wrestling yet because there's not enough participation. There's no fishing yet. There's no dance and cheer yet. But we hope to expand to those things. But all the other sports, basketball, baseball, football, soccer, softball, golf, tennis, track, cross country, all those sports, we're giving a Player of the Year. And what we've done is we've asked each coach from around the area, each athletic director, to distribute this nomination form to each one of their coaches. They've sent it back. We've got representation from every school and every sport. So not every coach from every school nominated in every sport, but we have at least some representation in every sport and from every school. So we're looking to compile a ballot and send it back to the coaches of each individual sport so that they can vote on Player of the Year. Obviously not voting for their own player. They'll send us one name that they think is the Player of the Year. The 3 people with the most votes are the finalists. The one with the most votes is the winner, and we'll announce that on May 29th at our Brightest Stars Banquet. Aaron Peters from KARK's KNWA in Northwest Arkansas, he's the host of Razorback Nation. He's going to be our MC. Italian Gardens is providing a great catered dinner, and tickets are $25, so parents, family, friends from the communities. We want everybody to come out and get involved. We're going to have a big time with it. It's going to be a great event, I think.
Well, first and foremost, I got to tip my hat to you, Mark, because I think you've done a great job. And I know a lot of people are working with this. I'm not trying to slight anybody, but you've put in a lot of time and effort into this. I know this is something that's been in the works for quite a while. Before I went to Minnesota, I know this was in the planning stages. And now that I'm back, it's good to see that it's on its way to being finished. So credit to you, great job. And we need to put some pressure on some of these coaches. Now, I think I like the turnout we have now as far as the response. Sounds, based on what you've said, that we've got every school and then we have every sport represented, but I want every school and every sport represented. I want every coach to get people in. And so if we can't do that this year, let's hope this event, it will be so much of a success to where you almost feel like you have to next year. I mean, it's going to be something wrong with you if a parent comes up and, let's say little Johnny or little Susie, her parents come up to you and be like, Coach, did you nominate my kid for the Brightest Stars? He's like, oh, well, sorry, I didn't. Well, come on, Coach, you got to get on that. And so next year, hopefully that coach will be like, what, I better get my nominations in or else they're going to be after me.
I've seen that a little bit, actually. I've posted Facebook.com/RVL News and Facebook.com/SportsBlitz, our 2 pages. That we've separated them because we have a lot of questions and stuff on sports that we put off to the side, but they're both under the River Valley Leader umbrella. I've posted several times, hey, have your coaches call us because we need, and then I'd get, or email me, and I'd get emails and calls later on where coaches had been bombarded from parents and family members and other coaches. I had one coach from Dardanelle who, I talked to her about it, and I was like, hey, I hadn't got anything from a couple of these coaches, and she sent individual texts to those coaches, hey, get with him. So some of these schools, I'm looking at the nominations and who I've got from what school. Some of these schools have a long list, and some of these schools have like 2 coaches who've nominated people. Yeah. So next year, like you said, I'm going to have a much bigger job because there's going to be a whole lot of nominees, a whole lot of kids to sort through, and it's a good problem to have because it means more people are going to be at least in the running, and they're going to get the notification that they deserve. They're going to get the honor of being nominated, and it's just going to be nothing but good stuff from now on with the Sports Blitz and the Brightest Stars Banquet. Also in local sports news, April 5th, this Saturday, Coming up at 5 o'clock, we talked with Chris Burke last Wednesday about the Pottsville-Atkins alumni basketball game. If you're from one of those two communities, or if you remember some of those players, now you and I are friends with Garrett Hill, who was a Pottsville great, went on to play at Arkansas Tech and was really, really good. He'll be there playing, and Larry Shingler, his old running mate, and guys like Chad Wise from Atkins and Terrence Bobo. Really good basketball players going to be playing in these games. It's going to be a fun night. If you just want to go watch some good basketball and help contribute to the athletic departments at both of those two schools, you can come out there and check it out. They've got a 30 and older game, a girls women's basketball game with all ages, and then a 29 and under men's basketball game, all out there on that night. Chances to win some gift cards and things like that, and to really interact. But it's just going to be a fun night there at Atkins.
And then the part that I'm really looking at is the part where the contributions and where all the money is going to help the athletic departments out for each school. I think it's a wonderful idea because we always talk about fundraisers in different sports and how you don't want to be a burden on the school. You don't want to be a burden on the school district in terms of funding for different things. But it's great when you can have, uniforms and locker rooms and things, not being the next Ritz-Carlton, but at least being up to standard and being nice. And, those schools have done a very good job with facilities and support. But, athletic departments always need financing. I mean, trust me, I'm in the middle of it myself in terms of raising funds and trying to have things you need in place. And, it's a never going monster, especially at the high school level. We think about the University of Arkansas and how they just have money to burn at these major schools. It's
but
not
that's
like
not
that.
The way it is everywhere else.
It's not like that. Smaller schools and high schools, it's not like that. So it's really huge. Yeah, you're going to go out and see some people way too old bumping knees and fouling each other, but it's for a really good cause. It's for helping these student athletes be in a position to where they can travel, be in a position where they have uniforms and all the necessary accommodations.
I like it. That's exactly what Chris and the guys are going for. If they're going to play ball against one another and have a little bragging rights between the two communities, might as well at least do something that benefits both schools, and it's going to be a fun event. Saturday night, 5 o'clock on. It ends up about 9 o'clock probably after all the events and all the stuff that goes on there. But it's at Atkins High School. Saturday at 5 o'clock. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to go play some softball, some old man softball, and we're going to get beat out early. And then I'm going to come watch some basketball on Saturday evening. While I'm talking about local sports, need to make you aware, Russellville High School baseball got a 5-3 win over Alma this weekend. The last game that I heard about before then, they lost to Harbor, Springdale Harbor, which is going to be a 7A school in the tournament. So this team, and a lot of these teams from around the area, they play these non-conference schedules. They test themselves. They go to tournaments, and they get outside of their comfort zone. And then they lock in with conference action. And then when you're in Russellville's case, in 6A, everybody's going to make the playoffs, but you're going to be playing 6A instead of 7A schools.
Right.
And, all these other local schools. Clarksville beat Pottsville a couple weeks ago in baseball. Russellville, nobody beats Russellville in softball because Andrea Kendrick is a beast.
Nobody scored.
Going to Alabama. She could almost play by herself out there. No disrespect to her team because they won the state championship last year and they've got a good squad, but she can pitch and she's hard to hit. But they're about to get down to time where they're playing in conference against teams of their own size and ability. They're not going to be playing these bigger schools, and they'll kind of get to lock in. But looking forward to spring baseball, softball, soccer, all these sports coming down the stretch.
Yeah, baseball, it's always been one of those sports to me that it's cool because everybody can almost play with everybody to a degree. I mean, in terms of bigger schools, you don't see a whole lot of 3A schools in football playing 7A schools. There's just be a mismatch. And you don't see a whole lot in baseball either, but occasionally they do. And sometimes the smaller schools win. It's a sport of skill. It's a sport of precision and just repetition. And that's what I like about baseball. To me, that's what's unique about it than other sports. And we were talking about this earlier with LeBron James and whether or not he could play baseball. And it's one of those things where you kind of have to grind at it. You can't just show up and say, hey, I'm going to out-athlete my way to it. So, some of the baseball powers you see in this state, And especially when you go down lower in the classes, there's some schools that they may not field a football team, or they may not be that great in different sports, but boy, they can sure play baseball. If you can hit, you can run, you can field, you can be disciplined, you can compete in baseball. So it's almost like a great equalizer sport. Like, you take the worst team in MLB and you put them in a series against the best team. On occasion, the worst team may win 4 out of 7. They may win a series. Now, you sit up here and put the Philadelphia 76ers against the Miami Heat in a series, and I'm going to be mad at Miami if it goes 5 games. Yeah. There's something wrong with Miami. So that's just the neat thing about baseball to me.
Looking forward to we always have great participation, well, not just participation because everybody plays, but great success around the River Valley in spring sports especially. So looking forward to seeing all these teams compete for championships. I hope that this spring and early May, I guess is when it is, that I'm as busy as I was a couple years ago, having 5 teams from the area in state championship action. So I say that, and then I'm going to have a couple-week-old baby, so probably don't need all that business. Don't need all that business. Let's hit a break real quickly. We were overdue. Jimmy Dykes is the new Razorback women's basketball coach. I don't know if they like us calling them Ladybacks, but we're about to do it for the rest of the show. Ladybacks hired Jimmy Dykes, ESPN analyst, and one of 3 people from ESPN nominated for an Emmy last year for his analysis of basketball. Really big basketball name. We'll debate whether or not this is a good hire.
Just don't say Lady Hogs, and I think you'll be all right.
Don't say Lady Hogs.
Yeah, just don't say that one.
Does sound bad. We've got that in our CrossFit Russellville poll question right after the break.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KARK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
We are back on the Sports Blitz. We're debating movies and TV shows here. We're cultured, well-rounded individuals here on the Sports Blitz. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter in the Cogswell Motors studios. And Weldon, it's Major League Baseball. I want to get this out of the way because I hate baseball. But it's Major League Baseball's opening day. We talked a little bit about it last Wednesday because there was sort of a faux opening day where they play over in wherever the heck they played.
Australia,
And then they come back for more fake games, and then they start with real games on the mainland today. So. Who you got winning it all? What are your interesting stories? I do want to look at the contracts that Miguel Cabrera and Mike Trout signed.
Yeah. We hit this the other day, and you asked me who my World Series team was, and I hadn't really given it much thought. My initial pick was the Tigers, and that was before Cabrera got his deal. And I just think the Tigers right now, you look at Cabrera and add Ian Kinsler, I just think they have the right mix. They're pitching. And losing Doug Fister was one that I kind of, I questioned a little bit just because I felt like they could use as many arms as possible, but he's gone to Washington now. And you look around the American League, the Red Sox, can they do it again? Are the New York Yankees going to be back? Seattle certainly loaded up. Robinson, Cano, and some other moves, but what are they going to do in that American League West? So it's really tough. I think they're going to win that Central because I don't know what Chicago's going to do. They were decent last year, but it was kind of one of those Cinderella runs for the Chicago White Sox. The Minnesota Twins are awful. So I think in the end, the Detroit Tigers will win the American League. Who they'll face, it's hard to say. I haven't picked my National League team yet, but I got the Tigers for sure win the American League, and I think I'm going to go ahead and have them picking go win the World Series.
I'll go Tigers and Cardinals. They're in two different leagues, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I knew that. I'm just playing. Mike Trout, 6-year, $144 million contract. He's 22 years old. I find it a little curious that that's what he got when Miguel Cabrera, I know he's the best player in Major League Baseball right now as far as a position player and everyday guy, but he got, what was it, nearly $300 million? I'm going to have to find 292 for 10 years, right?
Yeah,
10 years, 292. It was bigger than A-Rod's initial or second deal. I guess he signed the $252 million deal with the Rangers in 2003, and then he signed in 2007 or 8 this $275 million deal, or whatever it is. So it's 10 years, 292.
Yeah. The first report was 300, and then I think somebody came back and said, "Oh, he's not getting 300. That's crazy.
We're only $8 million off.
We're only going to give him 292. Come on, we're responsible spenders." But the thing with Mike Trout though is interesting. That was more on his end. He and his people wanted that deal.
He wanted to be able to be a free agent.
Yeah, because he's like, look, we're struggling right now, I'm gonna give you some more time, and if you still haven't built a pitching staff, which the pitching should be better, they have some good arms on that staff, but if we're not better offensively, Pujols continues to go downhill, I might want to go back to the East Coast. I may want to be a Philadelphia Philly or play somewhere along the East Coast. So that was a Mike Trout thing because he'll only be 28 years old. So he'll still be in his prime. He'll still be ready for a huge contract. The Angels wanted to go that 10 years. They wanted to go over 200 because I think, and I said this when you were gone, I wouldn't give anybody in sports off the top of my head a 10-year deal. I mean, just 10 years is just way too much to commit. But for Mike Trout, being as young as he is, he's one of the few people you might would consider doing it. And I think if you were able to get him at a 10-year deal, it'd be a huge bargain. Because imagine if the market for the best player is 300 right now, roughly 300 million. Imagine what the market would be, several years down the road. I mean, the market may be close to $400 million worth of contracts. The Angels would have loved to get him for 10 years.
Yep.
Let's say, 250 or 260. That would have been a steal. Mike Trout's people said, no. We'll sign this 6-year deal. We'll see you later.
Exactly. And in 6 years, you're going to be paying up. He's betting on himself. Yeah. And it's Joe Flacco. I like when people bet on themselves because they say, all right, well, I'm going to be worth even more next time. So I'll sign this shorter deal. I question guys like Darren McFadden when they do it because he stays in Oakland. But if you're Mike Trout, see, I would have thought if you just given me those two contracts next to one another and you said, all right, one of these is Cabrera, one of these is Trout, which one's which? The one that makes more. Now, I know what. I would flip them, but I understand what the Detroit Tigers are doing, trying to lock up Miguel Cabrera. He's still really good, but he's going to be 40-some years old when the end of this, and he'll never reach the end of this 10-year contract. He'll never see all that $292 million, but that's a huge number, biggest number in baseball history. Mike Trout, 22 years old, though. 6 years, 144. It wouldn't have surprised me at all. Now, Weldon articulated brilliantly how he and his representation decided they didn't want the longer deal and the more money, they passed up some because by then, we're going to be flying hovercrafts around and he's going to be worth $1 billion a year because that's just the way sports are going right now in the world. But Mike Trout, 6 years, 144. Miguel Cabrera, 10 for 292.
Yeah, and the thing about Major League Baseball, what stinks about it, depends how you look at it, is the money And unless they've changed something to CBA, but last I remember, money's guaranteed, which is really what makes it kind of a knee buckler. I just look, Miguel Cabrera's a great player. There's no way I would have given him $10 million 10 years. I mean, there's just no way. Look, you mentioned the St. Louis Cardinals. Their stance on Pujols was beautiful. Yeah. Everybody outside of St. Louis said, "Come on, you're a medium-sized at best market. You're not New York. You're not L.A. You have a superstar. You got to keep him. You got to keep him. You know, whatever he wants, you got to. You know, your market, your team can't afford to lose this guy." And St. Louis said, "You know, here's our number." I'm not sure if it was 7, 8 years at the most they were willing to go. They said, "Look, Albert, here's our number. You can take it or leave it." He clearly left it and took the Angels deal. And what are the St. Louis Cardinals doing? They're still balling. They're still one of the best teams in baseball, even without Albert Pujols, because they understand that we are the organization. We are a great organization, not just a team with a great player. You talk about Trout betting on himself. The Cardinals bet on themselves by not bidding for Pujols. I love it. And you see the Cardinals are still successful.
And the reason that I said that Cabrera, I just don't see him playing that long. Like,
no.
I guess he'll sit out there and, you know,
that's the thing.
I'm still here out on Walker making $20 million or whatever it is a year. But yeah, unless he just decides to stick it out with his walker and his, you know, handicapped accessible facilities, I don't see him playing out the whole contract. He's gonna be so old by the time it's done. But I guess they had to do what they had to do to lock him up, and now they're gonna pay him $292 million. That's baseball, and that's the baseball talk you're probably gonna get this week.
But that was like / business talk.
Yeah.
So we don't even have to put that in the baseball category. We just put that in the business category.
We'll put it in baseball though, because I want to have that in my. You know, we
some
talked
equity,
about baseball for like 5 minutes.
You need some baseball equity, yeah. So that's probably a good idea.
I need all I can get. Hey, we can talk about some car racing if you want. No, we'll pass on that.
I didn't even get to watch the race again yesterday. The tournaments got me.
I saw a little highlight on ESPN where Keselowski, is that the one that is mouthy and always wants to fight everybody?
Yeah, he always likes to
Yeah, he was talking about Kurt Busch, and he was talking about how we can come out of winner's circle and we'll go at it and like we'll fight. And
Keselowski gets on my nerves. But first of all,
I really would like somebody to just walk up to him while he's in the middle of talking trash and just punch him right in the nose and be done with it.
And then his dad gets involved too, and that's my problem with it. And maybe he's quit doing it, but he had an issue with Kyle Busch, Kurt's brother. I don't know if you know the storylines.
Oh yeah, I know it all. It's like a soap opera. It's a driving in circles soap opera.
It really is too, because you got people that don't like each other, and you don't even have to be a NASCAR fan. You know people don't like Tony Stewart. He's still recovering from his injury, but yeah, Keselowski has some issues with Kyle Busch, last year, and so it's just a big whirlwind.
It's like a soap opera, man. It is a man opera. It's a man opera. That's right. That's what NASCAR is. All right, breaking news across the Twitter and internet wire. It's on the line that Andrew Wiggins is going to announce for the NBA draft.
Stop the madness.
You cannot. What? He's going to have a press conference, and he is expected at this press conference to announce his. You think that he might have announced that when he got there, and he said, I'm going to go after a year, maybe on senior day when they honor him with the seniors. Yeah. He's a freshman, and he's like, my time went by way too fast. You knew that he was gone. Does he really have to do this?
And I wonder, and Bill Self's not this kind of guy, but I wonder if he would do the Calipari stuff. You remember 2 years ago, I had Anthony Davis, all them lined up, and he goes, "Well, I'm here to tell you that all of these guys are not coming back." And everybody's like, typical Calipari move. He's got a grandstand in some form or fashion. He just can't be him without doing it. But I doubt Bill Self will do that. And look, and I hit this the other day too. With Andrew Wiggins, Danny Ainge made the comment, I'm sure you heard about it, where he said there's no game-changing franchise guys in this draft. And I think, in a way, he's right in terms of what you see right now. It's not like if LeBron James had came in and averaged 30 a game if he had played a year in college. There's none of that going on. But, maybe in 3 or 4 years, you could have somebody who's a franchise changer. But I understand where Danny Ainge was coming from. Look, I think all of these guys could use some more seasoning. None of these guys are like home run, can't miss players. But you got to think, if I got to develop, do I need to get paid doing it, or do I need to do it on somebody's bench? I might as well be getting paid for it. And so because of where their stock value is, I can't get mad at these guys for leaving. But if you're asking me if we have any big-time home runs, I can't say that yet. I just can't say it.
And I couldn't agree any more with you. And if I were some of these representatives. If I were Bill Self, I might be finding somebody. This would be shady for him to do, but I might be finding somebody that's affiliated with the program, but is not like a coach, and be like, go to Embiid and go to Andrew Wiggins and say, yeah, man, you could go pro, but everybody's talking about how you need some work and it's not guaranteed. And, you did score 4 points in the tournament in the game that we lost. And Embiid, man, I know you've got this back issue and you don't want to be the next Greg Oden where everybody wonders about you. You could come back and play healthy and we could win a national championship. And I mean, you can go pro, and I understand if you want that money, but if you wanted Kansas to look good, you could come and Jabari Parker, he's talking about whether or not he hasn't made his decision. He's going to go, but it's just, to me,
I could see it a little more with him though. Couldn't you like Parker versus Wiggins? Could you see Parker a little more than Wiggins? Because
Wiggins is gone. Yeah, there's no question. But Embiid and Parker, I think, are in sort of that same situation. If I'm Joel Embiid, he's going to go pro. He's going to get drafted in the top 3 to 5. But if he wants to prove that I'm a franchise guy and I want to be the number 1 pick, I mean, it's not going to make that big a difference because it kind of all depends on need, who gets him anyway. He may go 1. Who knows? So with the lottery and the fact that it's unsettled and uncertain, you might as well go.
Yeah. See what we got here.
Who we got on the line, Maddie? We got Jason on the line. Jason, dude, what's going on?
Hi, how y'all doing today?
Doing good. Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
And a little bit of baseball, a little bit of NCAA tournament, and of course Jimmy Doc.
Yeah, what's up?
And you're saying that if you could redo your bracket, I had Florida winning it, but that's the only team that I had still left. I had Arizona, Florida, Michigan State, and Louisville. Of course, that's Florida's the last one standing. So, and you was talking about Kentucky, man. I mean, like y'all are saying, they beat Wichita State, they beat Louisville, then they beat Michigan. Man, I mean, they are on a roll right now. This is the way that I thought that they'd be playing all year long since they had this great recruiting class coming in, and they were preseason number 1 team in the country, and all this. Now it's really all starting to come together, and Calipari's really got them playing, on the same level. And I mean, it's just unbelievable how good they're playing right now. But they're going up against Wisconsin, who, out of all the teams in the tournament, Wisconsin has probably impressed me the most. It's just got 5 guys out there that just play as a team. Offensively, defensively. They might not be the most athletic team out there by any means, but man, they know how to play together, and they're smart players. And that team has really just impressed me with how well that he's got them playing right now.
Yeah, we had the same mediocre minds think alike, right? And Jason and I had the same Final Four. So yeah, I'm with you, man. Those teams that I mentioned earlier, Wisconsin and Kentucky, man, that's going to be, I think, the better game of the two. I think Florida can stop Napier and Boatwright and those guys, and they'll win that game. But Kentucky and Wisconsin, the 2 teams, in my opinion, that have impressed me the most, both with the road they've had to go to get there and with how consistently good they've been. Wisconsin, they were one of those teams, I had them in the Elite Eight and had a thought about putting them in past Arizona. Just thought Arizona had too much. Of course, it was an overtime game, and Arizona could have, should have, would have won. But they were right there at the end. Wisconsin has been very, very impressive to me. Well,
yeah, I mean, and we've had this talk before. I mean, Wisconsin's a different team this year. I've watched them a few times. I watched them when they were through their hot streak, and watched them when they were cold in the middle of the year, and they lost a few games in a close span of time. And they're just offensively a lot better than what they have been. Their defense isn't as great, but it's still a really good half-court defense as it normally is. But their offense is so much more diverse. I mean, they're still running their swing offense, and a guy like Kaminsky is perfect for that offense. But they push the ball when there's opportunities. They look for things in transition. They take transition threes, which is something you almost never saw from a Bo-Ryan Wisconsin team. And they're just more diverse. I think they would have lost to Oregon if they were still the old Wisconsin, just because Oregon was putting up points. And usually, if Wisconsin can't grind you out, typically they're in trouble. They can still grind on you a little bit like they did with Arizona, but they can get out and score too. They're really a talented, multi-dimensional offense, which is a real dangerous prospect against a Kentucky team that they just abused Michigan on the glass. I mean, it wasn't even fair to watch Michigan. I think they said it on the broadcast. You had JV players going up against varsity players inside. I mean, Jordan Morgan, bless his heart, we've seen him before. We've seen him against Arkansas twice. He just isn't all that good. And he's going up against, 3 big men, Julius Randle and all these boys in there trying to rebound against him. It was no match for it whatsoever. The thing with Wisconsin's not a huge team either. They have Kaminsky, but they're not a huge team either. The thing is, Michigan has 4 guys that can keep you away from the basket, which is tough for a team like Kentucky who's physical. Wisconsin has 5 guys on the floor that'll keep you away from the basket. It's going to be really, really an interesting matchup.
All right, Jason, what else?
Is UConn the last team that beat Florida?
Yes.
Yeah, they are, even after Napier walked. Big time.
Yeah. And another thing about the NCAA tournament, how do y'all think the officiating's been? I thought it's been questionable at best.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that, man. I say stuff like, "Oh, I don't want to question the officials," and then it seems like every time I turn around, I question the officials. So I have to kind of, and I'll be honest with you, there's been a lot of the games that I haven't been able to watch all of it. I've just watched like the end and then watched highlights or whatever. So as far as consistency goes, I can't speak to it, but there's always going to be a question about the officiating to me.
Yeah, and that's where I come down. I think it's about relative to what, I guess, would be the question, because I mean, relative to the officiating we've seen throughout the season, I think it's been right on par. But in terms of just general evaluating officiating as far as the standard it should be, it fell short. But unfortunately, it's fallen short quite a few times this year to where I'm almost immune to it.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Baseball talk real quick. Y'all was talking about Cabrera and Trout. I think Trout is the only player I think it's worth, a 10-year contract. He's a 5-tool player. He can run, he can field, he can hit for power, he can hit for average. He's just probably one of the best players I've seen in baseball in a long, long time. Cabrera is more just of a good. He's probably the best hitter in baseball going right now. But all-around player, I think Mike Trout definitely should have probably got that 10-year contract instead of the 6. And my teams, of course, I got to be rooting for my Oakland A's. I think it's going to be a tough year again. We've got great pitching. No hitting once again. It seems like that's what we have every year.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be Detroit, and I'm going to say the Dodgers, and I think the Dodgers are going to win the World Series this year.
Well, they spent enough money, that's for sure. They've upended the New York Yankees' 15-year run. That's a little baseball knowledge dropped on you as highest payroll.
Yeah, but part of that is they gave some nice money to Clayton Kershaw, who is still being evaluated. His medical situation is still a little bit undecided. But yeah, I agree, Jason. If Clayton Kershaw is healthy, the Dodgers will be hard to deal with. Yeah, our Oakland A's, we're going to struggle this year offensively. We've got a little bit of speed, but we may try to move around the bases and plot a little bit. But we're not going to have any base clearing doubles or many home runs, I'm afraid.
I don't think so either. Sonny Gray, though, is going today, man, and I really like watching him pitch. I think he's one of the best young pitchers in baseball. And I think, if he, gets to pitch a whole year, maybe he has a chance at a Cy Young this year.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm looking at guys like Cespedes, and I just don't know if Oakland's going to be able to compete. I really don't. Because, I mean, you mentioned it, too. Defensively, they should be good, which is something I can't hardly say about another baseball team that I cheer for a little bit closer to home. But, with Seattle and Texas, Texas has Prince. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But, Oakland, the thing about the AL West, Jason, I don't know if you'll agree, their teams have made some moves, but it's not to where your mind is blown. You know how Oakland always is. They're never going to win the fantasy baseball battle. So because there's nobody, I'm not sure who will be dominant, maybe they can stick around, or maybe I'm just being a wishful fan.
And I think, if Donaldson comes around and he keeps hitting like he did last year, if Reddick bounces back, which he's had a heck of a spring, and Cespedes has got that new swing, so if he can get that swing to where, he's had a horrible spring, but if he can come around with that new swing, I think Oakland, you got Chris leading off. I think Coco Chris is a good center fielder. Norris, I think, is a good catcher. I think we have pieces in place, and like you're saying, if we can just kind of stay around there, and I think with our pitching, I think our pitching is going to keep us in the AL West, and I think we're going to win the AL West for the third time in 3 years.
Oh,
well, did he go to Butch Harmon, or did he learn how to? Is he still swinging it like this? Or
some hitters, they do have holes in their swing. They call them
like they start swinging the bat, and then they're just like, wait, I can't, and then they keep.
Yeah, hey, it's not. Well, that was Charles Barkley looking.
That's
was kind of
Charles.
But some people have too much of an uppercut or too much of a downswing. You can pitch them to certain corners, they just can't get to it. So look, Cespedes is a really talented player. An all-star. Time for him to take the next step. Jason, I agree with you. I'm thinking the A's can hang around.
All right.
There you go. That's what I like to hear, Weldon.
All right, Jason, before we get you out of here, Jimmy Dykes, we're going to talk about this after our next break, but what are your thoughts on Jimmy Dykes being hired as the next women's basketball coach at the University of Arkansas?
My first reaction was, what in the crap is Jeff Lawrence thinking? I didn't believe that he was going to hire somebody without a head coaching, background or anything, which, and then I started thinking about it. Jimmy Dykes knows a lot about basketball.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever just sit there and listen to him, I mean, he really does know a lot of X's and O's and what really needs to be done and how, the defense to run or offense or, whatever the case may be. His really basketball knowledge is unbelievable, and then I started doing a little background on, where he was an assistant at and all that. He was assistant at Arkansas under Eddie Sutton and also at Kentucky under Eddie Sutton. And I think Eddie Sutton is, one of the best coaches that's ever coached college basketball. So, and the more and more I think about that, I think Jimmy Dykes, he's known nationwide everybody knows Jimmy Dykes. And I think for him to be the face of the basketball program, the Lady Backs, I think it will help out Arkansas a lot. I think they will be able to get all these, every year there's always a good girl in state that leaves to go to, Oklahoma or Rutgers or, wherever the case may be. And I think he's going to be able to keep the Arkansas talent in state. And I think Arkansas has enough good girls in the state to maybe not compete at a real high level, maybe a Final Four or something like that, but I think they can definitely get to the NCAA tournament on a yearly basis.
And that's all that I think anybody in Arkansas, and I didn't realize this, at Arkansas you've got football obviously is king, basketball's next, baseball's next, and then women's basketball. Those are the four quote-unquote revenue-producing sports. Now, women's basketball, it's going to take some work. Yeah, but you got Tennessee and UConn in women's basketball and some handful of other ones, Notre Dame, Duke, some other ones like that, Stanford, that they probably basically sustain themselves. If they could do that, they could really they could help the program out a lot without just sinking money into it. And I think Jimmy Dykes can do a good job.
So what you're saying is, please, Jimmy, win so you can make some money so we don't have to use our football money to fund this, Jimmy.
Exactly.
Please.
So our football tickets don't go up. Go ahead and win some basketball games.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on this story, and they're a little bit personal. I kind of need to get rolling on a little bit.
We'll let you say it.
I'm gonna wait. Yeah, I'm gonna wait till we get back to the break before I roll a little bit on what I think of this.
All right, Jason, you can give us a call on Wednesday. We appreciate your call, man.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Take it easy. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, we're going to look at Jimmy Dykes, the 8th head basketball coach of the Lady Razorbacks, and tie a bow on a Monday show.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KARK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
If you didn't count on KARK4 Today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 Today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
All right, we're going to get back to Jimmy Dykes here in just a second because I know Weldon said he wants to roll. He wants to roll on it, and we'll get him to do that here in just a second. But we have to answer the second part of our CrossFit Russellville poll question for the day. NCAA tournament basketball Saturday, 6:09 Eastern, I guess would be a 5:09 tip here. Florida, Connecticut, and then following that at 8:49, which would be a 7:49 here, Wisconsin, Kentucky. You've got the semifinals, the Final Four. If you could reseed, I say reseed. If you could repick your bracket, who do you have winning those two games? Who do you have winning it all? We're going to get this on the record right quick.
Yeah. If they reseeded, we'd have an SEC semifinal. We didn't want that. We want an SEC final.
And you could have that. With all that talk about three teams from the Big Ten, you end up with two from the SEC instead. 2/3 of the representatives.
The odds. It's tough. Kentucky's hot right now. Wisconsin's playing really good basketball, but I'm going to still go with the Florida Gators, and I don't think it'll be easy. I think they're going to have some issues with UConn, not because UConn's as good as they are, but Florida's one of those teams that they dominate you, but they don't blow you out. They don't blow people out. Like even Dayton, a normal great team should blow Dayton out. Florida's a great team, but they just don't blow you out. They grind you. They get up by 4, then up by 8, and then they get up to 10 to 12. They never just blow your doors off. I think UConn's going to stay in the game, but I think Florida's better. They'll win it. So I've got Florida and Wisconsin and Kentucky. Whew, I can't even pick that one. I can't even pick it right now. You might have to come back to me on Friday's show, the game Saturday, because that's going to be a good one.
I always say, when the talent's even, the teams are even, you pick the best player. You've watched Connecticut play so far, and it seems like every time the things are even. I picked Villanova to beat UConn. Mm-hmm. I didn't go with my. I thought that Nova was a better team overall, so I picked them to win it. And then in the next round, I picked Iowa. I didn't know Iowa State was going to lose a player, but I had Iowa State winning and going on to the Elite Eight. But in every matchup, it seems that the teams have been very even, and then even against Michigan State, Shabazz Napier was the best player on the court, so I take him to win it. I'm going against that because I do think he is one of the better players left in this tournament, but Florida overall, I think, is 8 to 10 points better as a team than Connecticut. So I don't think they're quite even, because if they were, I'd just take Shabazz Napier and say he's going to take them to the win. And if they do win, it's going to be because he took them to the win. But I think Florida's just a little bit better than them. Scotty Wilbekin and that team, they're going to be able to, I think they're going to grind them. They're going to bang down low. I expect them to hit some more shots. They've been a little bit hit or miss with their, obviously you're not going to shoot 100%, but not been great shooting the ball so far in the tournament. I expect them to win and get to the national championship game. And for me, I feel like an idiot for betting against Wisconsin because I have for so long. I had them in the Elite Eight, but I had them picked to lose. Kentucky, man, they've just impressed the heck out of me. Wichita State in the second round, you can tell now if you're a Wichita State hater that they were the real deal, because like you said, Van Vliet was just this close to beating Kentucky and sending them home in the second round. Here they are in the Final Four. I think they're going to go to the national championship game. All that talent, you can pick one of 5 guys who, okay, well, Julius Randle's just not having the greatest day. One of the Harrison twins goes crazy, or Willie Cauley-Stein goes crazy, or Young goes crazy and hits a bunch of threes. They've just got too much. They'll overcome the sucky McSuckerson, John Calipari. He's not a bad coach. I just think he's a slime ball. And they'll win this game, and it's going to be an all-SEC national championship game. I don't know how they're going to beat them for the 4th time in the year, but I'll go with Florida. Would not be surprised at all if the talent wins out for Kentucky. They've beat them 3 times so far this year. Is that right?
3 times.
3 times. For 3, how can you beat a team 4 times, especially when the last one was a 1-point game or a 1-possession game? I think it was 1 point, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1 point, 61-60.
It was just so close. Kentucky, it feels like they're going to overtake Florida. I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt that 3 times out of 3 they've beaten them. It's hard to beat a team 4 times, but they've already done it 3 times. Why not just go for 4, win the national championship?
Yeah, and I'll just say, if Kentucky, against Wisconsin, if Kentucky cannot get behind, I think they'll win. But if Kentucky's gotten behind by double figures in each of their last 2 games, so they figured people out, Wisconsin's a little bit tougher team to come back against. So I think if they get down against the Badgers, it may be a little bit of trouble. But if they stay even with them and then open up on them as the game goes on, Kentucky's in great shape.
All SEC national championship game. Looking forward to that if it does come to watch. Now that I've said it, the other 2 teams
UConn and Wisconsin.
So you're going to see the most boring national championship game in history for me. Let's get back to Jimmy Dykes real quickly. Just got a couple minutes left. I got a couple of things about Jimmy Dykes, and I'll let you roll at the end so I can just go ahead and get mine out of the way. Jason sort of said what I wanted to say in a text. He said he forgot to mention that Joe Foley at Euler, former Arkansas Tech coach, women's coach, a lot of people wanted him to be the guy, to be the next choice. And who knows, he could have been one of the 7 that Jeff Long interviewed. He could have been one of the number of people that Jeff Long talked to about this job. But for Jimmy Dykes, I see this being, obviously for him, he's got to take the job if he's offered, and he wanted the job. So I can see this working out for a number of different reasons. One, he is well known across the country. People know who he is. People have seen him on ESPN. They respect the name cachet that comes with Jimmy Dykes. Is going to be a big deal for the Ladybacks program. I like what he said about keeping good players in state. Wouldn't it have been nice to watch Shakina Strickland from Worlton play for the Lady Razorbacks instead of Tennessee and go and dominate for 4 years? It would have been nice to see that Houston Nut fence put up around the state and keep some of these great players in, because really if you keep ladies like that, and then Jackson that's there right now from Jacksonville, I guess is where she's from, and all these good ladies in the state, and then you can go and pick and choose with your Jimmy Dykes cachet and the name. Look at me. I've been on TV. I've been nominated for an Emmy. I've been, here and there, been with Eddie Sutton, learned from the best. He said X's and O's is going to be the least of his worries going forward. He knows that he knows the game, and you've seen him break down film. You've seen him, analyze games, and he knows the game. Don't have a problem with that. I like the variety of his background, the fact that he was with ESPN. He was the athletic director at Shiloh Christian. He knows how that kind of stuff works, working with parents and communities and things like that, working with these ladies is something that he's experienced before. He's covered the game, obviously. He's got the experience with Eddie Sutton, and then the exposure for the Arkansas basketball program. He's going to get a lot of it. If you go look at Jeff Long's Twitter feed, you see all these people from ESPN and around the country who are just, oh man, Arkansas, a great hire of Jimmy Dykes. He's a wonderful guy. Everybody loves Jimmy Dykes. Nobody has a bad word to say about him. So I think that exposure will help as well. Well, no, at the end of the day, it comes down to wins and losses on the court. Can he get it done? Who knows?
Well, here's what I think. The name Jimmy Dykes, as you're right, it resonates. Huge move in terms of what hire could you have made that would have shaken it up the way Jimmy Dykes? Even if you had hired somebody with more credentials, more experience as a head coach, they weren't going to move the women's basketball needle the way Jimmy Dykes does.
I guess Gary Blair would have been the only one that would have been comparable.
Yeah, Gary Blair.
I still don't think it would have gotten as much national exposure.
I don't think so either. And it's not so much about the coaching talent of the people. It's just about the how much of a name you are and how much you resonate nationally. And so I think that was a huge shot in the arm. And the Joe Foley thing, I think Joe Foley would have done a great job at Arkansas. I think if he were available, I would have liked to have seen Arkansas make that move. But here's what I don't get, and you're not the only one to say this. So other people have brought this up, so it's something I've heard too. People getting this outrage about, they should have hired Joe Foley. Well, if the number of people who cried for Joe Foley actually showed up at the game, this gym would be full.
Yeah.
Because you have people like, you're a Lady Razorbacks fan? You are? You don't go to games. You had all these people acting like, we really care. Oh, they should have done this. And you ain't been to a game in 15 years, if ever. So really, those people can't talk to me about, who's a good or bad hire. Now, Jimmy Dykes. I can identify with Jimmy Dykes because, and again, you can say it all comes back to me, whatever, fine. It's all about me. But Jimmy Dykes is a guy who has spent his time in broadcasting. Yes, he did some assistant coaching back in the day, but he's known more so the last decade and a half as a broadcaster. He breaks down film. He knows the game just as well as any other coach out there. And Jimmy kind of subtly lets you know that, too. He mentions himself a lot, not in a selfish way, but to let you know that, well, just because I haven't been in the game officially, I haven't been, coaching on somebody's bench, I can still get the job done. And you know what? I looked at myself, and I feel the same way because everybody who knows me for years I know the game. I know football. I've been around it. I've taught it to many people. I've coached. I've done all these things, but people still question you just because you haven't been in an official capacity as a position coach on an official staff. So people don't think you can get the job done. So like Jimmy Dykes, Jimmy believes in himself. He believes he can get it done. He knows the game. Now he's finally being validated. That's how I feel with my position. I feel like I'm doing the same things I've always done. It's just I'm validated in people's mind now because I have an official position. It puts a real chip on your shoulder. I think that's going to push Jimmy a little bit further.
I think that's a good point, and I think it's going to help. At the end of the day, though, he's going to have to put it together he said it, it's the toughest conference in America as far as top to bottom, although, it's been basically Tennessee or bust. Now, Texas A&M is now in the conference.
A little bit of LSU,
they're
too.
Very good. Yeah.
A little bit of LSU.
The LSU women's basketball coach, one of Weldon's favorites. So
I don't even see if they won. They played Louisville. I don't even know if they won that game.
All I need to know is is UConn still in it? Yes, then they're going to probably win it.
No, Notre Dame, don't sleep on them now.
Notre Dame does have a girl. I was running on the treadmill this morning at the gym, and they've got a girl who looks like a volleyball player. She wears like these long, like sliding shorts and then like knee pads and stuff. It looks like she's going to go dig. I said it. Coach Byer. I know she likes that Arkansas Tech head volleyball coach there. So, all right, we've run over. We got to get out of here.
LSU got killed.
That's women's basketball update for the day. We've talked baseball. We've talked women's basketball. We've just covered it all today on the Sports Blitz. So we hope you'll come back and join us on Wednesday. If you didn't like this show, just come back. We're just like, my pastor always used to say, we'll treat you so many different ways, you're bound to like one of them. We'll talk about so many different things on the Sports Blitz. You're bound to like something we talk about. So we hope you'll join us on Wednesday. I'm going to try not to butcher this outro like I did last Wednesday, but for Weldon and Maddie, I'm Mark saying so long. We'll see you at 11 o'clock on Wednesday with more Sports Blitz.